Welcome to the fourth online training session on conducting data quality management pre-checks through pattern matching using IDEA software. These online training sessions are brought to you by SAMA Audit Systems and Softwares Private Limited. In today's session, we are going to learn a couple of interesting features in IDEA. We're going to learn how we can integrate IDEA with SAP through a smart exporter, which is an SAP connector. The Smart Exporter is a tool in the Caseware ecosystem of software solutions from Audicon, Germany. We're going to look at a very specific case study on Vendor Master, where we will be picking up the data for general information, table LFA1, and bank account information, table LFBK. Once these tables are available within IDEA, we will learn how to join the files to create a single file, and then we will learn a dedupe feature on the bank account number using the duplicate key exclusion feature. We will also learn pattern matching on the vendor name using two options in IDEA: the field manipulation using the SoundX feature and duplicate key fuzzy duplicates. Let's move over to the Smart Exporter and start our process of extraction of data. This is the Smart Exporter tool. I have set up a connection, tested it out, it's working fine. I am integrated to a test instance of SAP. I now go across to create a data request where I'm going to choose tables pertaining to vendor master. So I simply enter vendor master in the search box, and it gives me a listing of all the tables pertaining to vendor master in my SAP data dictionary. Now I'm going to choose LFA1 and LFBK, which is a general information table and banking information table. Also, when I go to fields and filters, I have the facility to choose the account number of the vendor and the name. So I don't need to take all the fields. I only need to take the fields required for the purpose of analytics. And from the banking account table, I'm going to choose the account number and the bank account number. The account number of the vendor with the bank account number of the vendor. In terms of the integration of the tables to IDEA, you can use multiple options. You can either take it as an IDEA file. In the example, I want to show you a novelty, which is an SAP import. So I'm going to choose AIS SAP, and I am going to run the data request. Once again, let me show you the options. You have CSV, IDEA, Access, AIS, SAP. So you have multiple formats available. And now I am going to run the request. Notice you have an option to run the request online, or you can schedule it for a later date, which is a very interesting feature. I'm going to start the run. This should take about a minute or two. And what I'm actually doing at the moment is the table LFA1 and the table LFBK. I'm actually pulling it from a test SAP instance, and I'm going to be importing these tables into IDEA in a minute or two. A very nice feature which is available is that you can schedule the tables for an asynchronous transmission. So if it's a very large table, you can actually have it buffered and downloaded into a file over a period of time. You can see the first table import is complete. I'm also waiting on the second table import. While it's getting completed, I would also like to mention that you can also do the table level joins within the Smart Exporter tool. There is a feature available here where you can do the joins. Friends, you can see the data request is finished. Both the tables have been imported into my temp folder, and I am able to see the tables here. Let me import the files into IDEA. So I'm just going to drag the file and drop it within my project folder. And you can see it chooses SAP AIS as the preferred import option in the import assistant. Let me import the data. I will call this VM, that stands for Vendor Master General. So this gives me the account number and the name of the vendor. Let me also bring in the other table, which is LFBK. I do that through a simple drag and drop. This again chooses SAP AIS in the import assistant, and I'm going to call this a VM bank. So I have both the tables with me. Now before I show you the data quality management pre-checks in IDEA, let me combine both the files using a join command. where I combine the VM general table with the VM bank table, and the common field is going to be the account number of the vendor. I'm going to remove additional fields which I don't know, repetitive fields, and I will call this join file VM join. So you'll notice that I now have in a combined file the account number of the vendor, the name of the vendor, and the bank account number of the vendor. So that process completes the part about integration from SAP. Now let's get into the data quality management pre-check parts and idea. The first test which I would like to show everyone is how do we do a dedupe check on the bank account number. More specifically, how do we look for the same bank account number linked to different vendors. So we go to duplicate key exclusion. I simply choose same bank account number, different name of vendor, or you can choose different account number of vendor, and this file would be dedupe on bank account number. That's the name I'm giving to the file. And now when we run this, you can actually see, I'm just going to give you an example of the first 4 lines in my database. The bank account number is the same, but the names of the vendors are different, and then we would need to actually validate this to make sure, are these actually duplicates, are they false positives, but essentially this can bring up significant data quality management upside for you. Now I go back to my base data, that is the data which I joined a few minutes back. The second part of the online training today is pattern matching on the vendor name. Now friends, there are 2 ways you can apply a pattern match. One is you can do it through a field manipulation followed by a duplicate, and the other is using fuzzy duplicates. Let's look at the first option. I am going to append a field to the database, and I'm going to call this field soundx VM. So soundx on the vendor name, this would be a virtual character field. The length of the field will be 4 digits. It's an alphabet followed by 3 numbers, and that's the length for all soundx fields. In the parameter, I am going to enter @soundx. This is a function which is already available within the add functions in your copy of IDEA, and I'm going to apply this on the field name1. Notice soundx works on character fields. Now when you run this, it will give you a new column. You can see that, which is basically a combination of the letter followed by 3 numbers. So it uses an algorithm to give a unique code to the name. And now that I have the soundx field, I would like to do a duplicate check. I'm going to do a duplicate key detection at this stage, where I just simply say, give me all the cases where the soundx is the same, and I'll call this a duplicate soundx. Okay, so this is the first way we can do it. I'm going to run this, and you can actually see that there are a lot of false positives. Now these are clearly data quality management issues where there's a lot of bad data in the vendor master file which needs to be cleaned up. This is a value addition from our side. What you will also notice, okay, let me scroll down to something which will catch your attention. You can actually see a case here. Look at this case here, right? The soundx code is the same. You can see that. The bank account numbers are different and same in certain instances, but if you see here, you've got Douglas Olson, Doug Olson, and Douglas Olson, and these are cases which are coming up through a pattern match. They appear to be the same individual. So this is again a value add through the soundx feature, where you can help the company clean up the vendor masters and uniform the data. You notice for all these 3 entities, the vendor codes are different. Now let's go to the second pattern match test, which is something which all of us love to look at and experiment with, which is the fuzzy duplicate test. You'll get that under duplicate key in fuzzy. I am not going to look at exact duplicates. I'm not going to look for records in multiple fuzzy groups. I want to simply look for fuzzy matches, and I want to do that on the field name1. So I just simply choose the name1, which is the text field. And if you remember in session 3, where we spoke about the Levenshtein factor in the fuzzy join, the Levenshtein factor is also a part here of the similarity degree, where you can actually move the scale up and down, right? So I'm going to keep the scale at, say, a 90%, and I'm going to call this a fuzzy duplicate 90 PCT. on VM, vendor name. And let me limit the data we need to see. So I'm just going to keep, let's say, the name and the account number. Let's run this, and you'll notice that there are 162 cases where the names are very similar. You can see that the names are very similar, and what IDEA has done in the fuzzy duplicate is against all these names, it's given you one common group name. And I think that's a very nice feature, because if I were to give you an example, let's say you're a bank and you would like to present a report to the regulators where the group exposure on borrowings or credit facilities have exceeded a particular numerical value. Now, let's say a particular bank, a respondent bank, has borrowers registered with different names, as you can see here. And if I do a grouping on the name field, I'm not going to get anything useful because each name is very unique. But if I do the fuzzy and I get one common group name and I do a summarization on the group name, I'm calculating the exposure in the right way. Rather than relying on the individual names, I'm taking a group name, and that makes life very easy. If you would like to play with the data and redo the fuzzy, you just simply click on a rerun. I can bring the fuzzy precision down to 85%. All the earlier parameters remain the same, and let's run it. You get a new file. We're getting the same cases from before, but you're getting 3 more cases, and you can actually scroll down and you can see here we're getting Chris Miller and Chris Miller, one name without a comma and one name with a special character comma. So a very interesting feature. So a quick recap: we imported the tables from SAP, we joined the tables, we then did a duplicate check to a dedupe check to look at the same bank account number. We then went on to pattern matching, where we added a new field using the SoundX function, got some very interesting insights into dedupes and data quality issues. We then did the fuzzy duplicate match, which is an alternate mechanism to look at bad data or duplicate data in a master file. And in the fuzzy duplicate match, you can set the precision degree. We mentioned this in online video series 3 too, and we like to mention it here also. The lower the precision, the higher the false positives. So you would need to use an independent field like the bank account number or the telephone number, or the income tax number, mobile number, to establish additional duplicate checks to weed out the false positives. So friends, thank you for attending online series 4. This video will be posted on YouTube very shortly, and we look forward to your comments and inputs, and look forward to seeing you on 8th of April for online series 5. Thank you and have a nice evening.